What's up, you sweaty nerds and greasy degenerates? Argenti has officially released in Honkai Star Rail, and that means it's time to take a look at where he sits on the tier lists. A lot of people were saying that he's mid and weren't very excited about his kit, but you might be surprised at where he lands on the tier list. So let's jump into the video and take a look. Alright, so let's see how many people I can piss off today. So you guys know the drill, Honkai Star Rail Memory of Chaos, 1.5.1 tier list. This is not my tier list. This is pridewin.gg's tier list, and I highly recommend you come take a look at this for yourself. I'll put a link in the pinned comment and description below. A lot of theory crafters and content creators will pool their information together in order to be able to help create this information that you see before you for the tier list. And the criteria for the tier list is constantly changing, which is a good thing. They've made some big improvements to the tier list that were very needed, and the tier list is better as a whole. Now let's take a look at where Argenti sits on the tier list. There are 3 main categories, and some of the characters in this game will move around on the tier list depending on what category you are on. So if you take a look at single target, Argenti's not doing like the best because he's sitting here at A tier, but he's not a single target focused character. If you look at blast damage, which is 3 enemies getting hit at the same time, Argenti actually moves up to S tier, which is very, very solid. He's hanging out next to Dan, Heng and Lune, QQ, and CeeLo. And if you go to blast damage, which is 4 to 5 enemies, and take a look at where he sits now, he's all the way up to S plus tier. Now, it should be noted, this is where Argenti wants to be. Argenti is an AoE damage dealer. This is his bread and butter. Okay, this is how he puts food on the table. Okay, this is his meat and potatoes. Okay, this is what he does. Okay, this is how he gets his Christmas bonus. He does AoE damage. So when you look at AoE damage, this is the best situation for him. But he's basically the new AoE god. Okay, we're on AoE right now, right? Where does Jing Yuan fall? Over here at A. That's a little bit rough. Now, I should point out that this tier list is not perfect. I'm going to say that again. This tier list is not perfect. There are different variables that could be at play that you might be able to accomplish that might change the viability of a certain character that you may have for your account. Okay? I say this every single time I do a tier list video, and it doesn't matter. People still feel the need to come through and say, you're using that tier list? Oh my god, oh my god. All right, shut up, guys. Okay, just for like 2 seconds. This is specifically a tier list about Memory of Chaos in 1.5.1. That means that this tier list will change the next time Memory of Chaos changes. It might not change that much, but it probably is going to change at least a little bit. There are some things about this tier list I don't always agree with, and I'll even point one of those out for you. So let's take a look at blast damage. And we'll talk about Argenti more in just a second. I just figured I'd give you guys the time of day. All you like simps, all you turbo simps in the comments, I'll go ahead and give you the time of day. Dan Heng in Lune has fallen a little bit, and some people are going to say, oh, it's because of the current Memory of Chaos. Actually, well, guess what? The current Memory of Chaos very heavily caters to imaginary damage. There is a lot of imaginary weakness in Memory of Chaos right now, and he still managed to fall down just a little bit. But I'm going to give you this. I think with the addition of Hanya in the game, Dan Heng and Lune has an even better synergy than he had before. I think that with Hanya in the game now, and with the current Memory of Chaos that we have, I think that Dan should actually be up here at S plus tier for blast damage. Yes, let's give Dan Heng a round of applause. I think he actually should be at S plus tier for blast damage. I can't say that for single target, and I don't think I can say that for AoE. But I'll give you this. I think that Dan should be up here at S plus right now. I genuinely do think that with the new synergy that Hanya brings to the table, Yukong basically gets benched and Hanya goes up, right? Now, you could argue that you shouldn't even be using Yukong at all on a Dan Heng team because she just isn't as good of a support, but there's only so many supports in the game, so plenty of players might have been using Yukong, and now they can bench her for Hanya, and that just bumps him up. You know what I mean? So, there you go. I think that Dan Heng should be higher, all right? Calm down, everybody. It's going to be fine. I agree with you on some points, okay? I agree with some of you guys. Like, for some of you think that Blade should be higher. Some of you think that Kafka should be higher. Jing Yuan should be higher. I don't necessarily fully agree with that. They're all, if you take a look, they're all A tier no matter what. And I think that that's fair because it recently changed. If Dan drops down to S tier, I think that bumps some of these people down to A tier. And I think if Argenti being the new AoE god, that kind of like rises him up a little bit. I don't know if you can make room for some of these other characters in the tier right now, right? I just think that that's the way it goes. I don't mean literally room on the list. I think that I just mean like the current meta favors some characters over others. So that's just how I feel. Now with, oh shit, what have I done? Oh god. All right, so let's talk about Argenti some more, okay? So I do believe that Argenti has been placed pretty well on the tier list. I think that people are sleeping on him a little bit. A lot of people said Argenti, trying to make mid-Yuan jokes about Argenti, and I think people are genuinely sleeping on him. He's literally better than you think. I said the same thing about Hanya. People are kind of sleeping on her. She can keep a 100% uptime on her ultimate. If you want to know how to keep permanent buffs up with Hanya's ultimate, literally an infinite ultimate, take a look in the pinned comment and description below. I'll leave you guys a build guide for a permanent buff Hanya infinite ultimate build. It's pretty much the same build that I made for Asta to keep a permanent ultimate with Asta up, but with E4 Hanya, it's actually even easier to do. So go take a look at that if you want. And I think people are sleeping on Argenti. I think Argenti should literally be where he is on the list. I genuinely think he deserves the S tier for Blast. I believe that he deserves the S plus for AoE. He's the new AoE god. I think that for single target, he definitely falls off, right? He has way more energy regeneration, though, than I think people realized he was going to have. He has a lot of really good built-in energy regen, and when enemies hit the battlefield, he's going to gain some energy. And because he deals AoE damage with literally every attack he does except his basic attack, he's also going to defeat a lot of enemies too. This gains him a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy regen for Argenti that you don't see within his kit because it's combat oriented and he gains it through combat. So I believe that this is a very, very good placing for Argenti. I do believe it's accurate. I can't say the same thing for Dan. I think he should be slightly higher when you look at blast damage. But for Argenti, I think he's well placed. We'll just have to see how things go. If the next Memory of Chaos doesn't have enough physical weak enemies, he might fall off. But if the next Memory of Chaos still has the Swarm as the final Memory of Chaos enemy for like for stage 10, I think he's probably going to stay generally where he is, because even if they're not physical weak, he does AoE damage, and when you're fighting the Swarm, there's a lot of enemies. This is all, every time enemies hit, the more enemies on the field, and the more waves you fight, the better Argenti is. It's actually pretty cool. Literally, the more enemies there are, the better he will do. As long as he can clear those enemies, he's going to get a ton of energy, he's going to get to his ultimate really fast, and he's going to blast right through everybody. He's going to just gain a ton of energy, and he's going to use his ultimate way more often than you give him credit for, and he's going to blast off Queen, okay? That's my opinion. I do believe Argenti is deserving of the slot that he's gotten here on the tier list. That's just my personal opinion. I think that, let's take a look at anybody else I think that might be in a weird spot. No, I think a lot of this is pretty fair. I think Dan is the main one that I kind of don't agree with. I think for blast damage, he should be up here at S+. Let's take a look at Topaz. Does she move around a little bit? No, I think this is right. I think that Topaz, by the way, is going to go up. We have that new follow-up set synergy. We're going to be getting probably some more follow-up synergy in the form of new characters. And I think that that will give her a buff by association. Just like with Dan, Heng, and Bibberter, Lune, and Hanya, I think that there's a synergy there. I think that Dan should be slightly higher because of that. I think that Topaz should be slightly higher when we get more synergy for her. I think that it's good that she dropped a little bit, because I think she was a little tiny bit overhyped on the tier list. I said that in my video about her when I did a tier list video for her, that she was probably slightly too high. And sure enough, when the Memory of Chaos changed, she dropped. Now, that's partly because the Memory of Chaos changed and it didn't cater to her really at all. But she's a good character. I wouldn't say she slept on. A lot of people are talking about how good she actually is now. A lot of people were wrong about her. But I think a lot of people are wrong about Argenti, and he's a lot better than you think. Anyways, if this video was helpful or informative in any way, shape, or form, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. And I may or may not reply to your greaseball comment disagreeing with the tier list or whatever. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.